Green light, yes, we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to the June 3rd Mooresville Redevelopment Commission meeting. First, if we could do our Pledge of Allegiance and a short invocation by Vice President Perry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for the blessings you bestow upon us. I ask that you would guide this commission to do the right thing for the taxpayers they represent and help us make the decisions that would be best in their best interest. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes. The commissioners had a chance to look over the minutes, and if so, may I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion we approve the executive session minutes from May 6, 2021.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, for our regular session minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Dana got it.
Dana seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, financial report. Chelsea.
You each received a copy. Oops, sorry. Should have done that ahead of time. You each received a copy of the financial report from the clerk treasurer's office. I normally go over this pretty quickly. As a friendly reminder, the clerk treasurer's office is the official treasurer of this body. They're the official. They write the checks. They keep the books. But I thought it might be good, at least today, and I'm happy to do this going forward, or really however the commission would like, to just go over the current balance of our four accounts, and in particular, again, per state board of accounts, the clerk treasurer's office had to change our numbers. So previously, the fund report on the far left was 406, 410, 411, and 412, and now they're 406, 460, 510, 712. None of that may matter to you. You may not have even noticed because that has nothing to do with our actual balances, but I thought for the sake of any confusion, I would go through line by line briefly. So 406 is the redevelopment capital fund, they're calling it, so that's the general TIF fund. The current balance is $5,763,504.93. 460 Gateway Construction Fund, that's really the Gateway bond that was issued that we just closed out because we reissued the bond. So the current balance of that is now zero. 510 is now the TIF Debt Service Reserve, which is part of the refinancing for the bonds. The amount that we cannot spend because it will be part of our final payment of debt reserve is $470,474.38. And then 712 is our TIF rental of property is the name of the account. That was our Southbridge Crossing account. That balance is $678,529.35. For a grand total of $6,912,508.66. Happy to answer any questions, but I thought especially since account numbers have changed, that it may be worth noting.
Any questions for Chelsea? Any questions from the public over this? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the financial report.
I'll make a motion to accept.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Chelsea. Next item, old business, Mooresville Business Center update, Marilyn and Bethel.
You're not gonna believe this, but Kreider & Kreider still doesn't want to be paid. So we still do not have our final pay app from them. There was some back and forth this month with Banning and Kreider. We asked them to get it to us, knowing that the clerk treasurer's office was out today, really to get it to Banning by end of day Monday. They didn't get them anything. So I've even tried to tell them, like, we actually would like to close this out. So if you could please make that a priority, we'd appreciate it, but we still don't have anything. The only remaining item that they have, and I put it in my report, is the testing on the sanitary manhole repair. So they had a leak in the sanitary manhole. They had to repair it, which they did, and now they need to go back and test it within 30 days to make sure that fix holds, essentially. So that's the only outstanding item that they still have, and again, we're just awaiting that final pay app. So happy to answer questions that anybody may have about Merriman as far as Kreider and Kreider's concerned. I also did want to point out the signal at Merriman and State Road 67. So I've been working with traffic engineering, which the commission moved forward with signal design. They have finished a preliminary design, which has been submitted to NDOT. Unfortunately, we have no idea the turnaround time that takes from NDOT. I haven't really heard anything. And I'm certain they will come back with comments of some sort. The one question that we have that I want the commission to be thinking about, a decision doesn't necessarily have to be made tonight, but within the next month or so, whether or not we want a string pole. I'm calling it a string pole. I think it's technically called a strand pole. So in the next few weeks, if you're out and about, look at what is at Pleiades Drive, where TOA is. It's really just a string that the lights are hanging on. Or do we want to do something a little more decorative, since this is at the corner of Merriman and State Road 67, which is where we have the gateway sign. This is really the entrance into Mooresville. That it is just a decorative pole. It's pretty standard. Basically, all they let you do is powder coat it. So it's just a little fancier than not. So it's something that I just wanted to throw out there. Again, a decision doesn't have to be made tonight, but did want to throw that out there. And you're going to ask me the cost, as you should, which I'm pulling up. So it is, per our engineer, roughly $5,000 to $6,000 for decorative poles. So just something to think about. Again, I don't think a decision needs to be made tonight, but as I was thinking through the gateway and the money that's been spent right there, and looking at simplistic poles, string poles, strand poles, it was something that I just wanted to bring to your attention.
Is that 5,000 to 6,000 more?
Yeah, that's.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, in addition.
In addition, yeah.
Yes.
Which ballpark, now this has not been bid out, but ballpark, we're guessing it's going to cost us about $250,000 for that intersection to put the poles up. Now, we've done a lot of the legwork already with the Merriman and State Road 67 project. We extended the turn lane, so I'm hoping that some of those things are cut down on, because we're not starting from scratch. But again, we won't know for sure until we get approval from NDOT and then get a estimate from our engineer, and then obviously bid.
$250,000, and we're going to bicker over 5,000 to 6,000.
I get a flashlight and stand out there and push it off and on.
Any discussion on this, or do we want to kick it to next meeting? I think we'll discuss this at the next meeting.
Kick it, yeah.
Yeah.
Not a problem. Just relaying what I know.
Yep. Anybody from the public want to speak on this? Perfect. Hey, we actually have members of the public here tonight, so we're moving in the right direction. All right, shell building update. Runnabone. Come on up.
We're, right now, if you've been by there lately, excuse me, we're prime painting the precast, and that's important to do because we get these rains, and not only the day that it rains, but then a day or two after, you can't keep painting it because there's too much moisture in the surface. So once we get the primer on, makes the second coat, the finish coat, go a lot better. So we're doing that, and then we're once we get the painting done, we'll be able to mount the downspouts on the west side of the building, and we'll also be putting in a underground drainage system that will take go from them and take them out to two manholes, storm manholes on the west side. So we've got that all planned and laid out. As far as the two corners, we're finalizing the design. The architect, when he designed that, he drew a pretty picture, but the precast company would not stand behind putting, if you know how that looks on the corner with the glass, there's the drawing showed a band of precast above that. There's nothing to support it. And locking them together, the precast company said that they would not recommend that, would not guarantee it. So we will be putting up a steel framework in there to support the glass, and then we'll put there'll be, instead of the precast, there'll be an EFA stucco type finish above that. So it's not gonna look a whole lot different, but it's a different methodology, and this one won't have all that weight up there on top of the glass storefront. So we'll be moving on to it here shortly. It is a little bit tricky of a design. We've had an engineer working on it for a couple of weeks now, and we're about to get it back. The glass is all ready. The glass and framing is at the glazing contractor. So I think everything will come together. Will be coming together here pretty well here shortly. We got a paving contractor and seating contractor to lined up to take care of those things as soon as we get the outside work done. As I was saying, the storm, we need to, of course, get that in before we can pave and seed. So I think things are coming together pretty well here, and the inside of the building is, of course, being a shell building, it's pretty well done, and a few little knick-knack things to tie down here and there, but it's pretty much the way it's going to be. Oh, I should mention, we do have one issue here that's been ongoing now. We contacted the power company back at the beginning of the year. Of course, shell building, we're only putting a 200 amp service in because we don't know who ultimately will be in there. Do they need a very small service or a huge service? And so they've been trying to get a permit because they're going to have to bore under 67 to get the power from one side to the other. And so we've gone ahead, our electrician has hung all the lights and that'll be in there and everything. And so we're all ready with that. We've got a couple of exhaust fans to move a little air in there so it doesn't get too stale. And again, they're sitting there ready to be hooked up. We do need to get the power over there, and the last I talked to him, which I do need to follow up again. It's been a couple weeks, but they were still waiting from the state to get the release on being able to bore the surface under 67.
Two things I'll add to that. One comment, one question. I'm also working with SCI REMC, who will be the electric provider for that building. When I called to set up electric, it was very vague. It was like, just let us put a line in the ground, and we've had a lot of right-of-way and utility issues, and it's very, we'll say, busy in that area. So we've had some back and forth with them. I've had legal involved in that, and banning as well, to really narrow in where that line's going to go, because that's not really what they requested, which then we came back and said, no, we need to know where it's going to go, not just go put it wherever you want it. So twofold, I don't think we're done with that yet. I think we're still working through that, but obviously the NDOT permit will be the biggest
And
holdup.
I had asked them, and they never really have given me what I'd consider a straight answer about whether they were going to just, for now, try to say, we'll just get this little dinky line run under for a 200 amp service, or do they want to go ahead and get something major stuck under there so that when whoever comes in takes that and they want a 2,000 amp service or something, that they'll be able to be served without having to rebore again. So, but they haven't really told us what their intention is. So.
Second, my question is, ballpark, obviously there's still some things going on. Completion, what are we looking at?
I'd say we're probably, I'd say probably 3 months to be safe. I mean, we can, if there's something in particular, I think probably the last thing to be done would be those two corners, because of everything that's got to go. We've got to get the steel framing fabricated and installed, then get the glass installed, and then build the little wall above it that's taking the place of the precast that shouldn't have been really put up there. So, but everything else, I mean, in terms of if somebody were to come along and want it quick, I mean, we could speed that up certainly, because as I say, the glass and the framing materials, they're all here. So, and we're going to probably put the steel up ourselves with our own forces. So, there again, we can double down on that if we need to accommodate if somebody comes along and really wants to hit it. Of course, the other thing to always keep in mind on the spec buildings is that, of course, there's no floor in there. A lot of improvement would have to be made, whatever offices, restrooms, all that would have to get built, and to get permission to build that, there has to be drawings done ultimately again, and then resubmitted to the state to get the approval, and then we get a local permit, of course, which is simple once the state permit's done. But yeah, I think we're getting close enough to where if somebody came along, there certainly wouldn't be any problem with making sure that everything was done, cleaned up, and gone before they would be using the building.
A few more things. This is Mike Runabaum Construction. I don't think I introduced him, so I apologize. And secondly, we have had some bites. We've had a little more traction on the shell building than we had, and we actually had somebody fly in to take a look at it. So, other than that, I don't have anything to update you on, but I got a call from the broker, and he said it went well. So, we're as anxious as we are for it to be finished, we're even more anxious for it to be filled. So.
Yes.
We're committed to getting it done right, and there's no question it's taken a little longer. We've had some things. I would just say, to remind everybody a little bit, don't want to get too carried away with this, but we did have some things that added some time onto this. We added the road onto the project. That added some time. If you recall, we kind of put things on semi-hold for a little bit about wondering about NICEPAC. That sat out there for a good little bit of time. That slowed things down a little bit, and I don't want to overbear that. Our job is to get the job done, turn it over so that a good company can come in here to Mooresville, and that's what we're going to do. And we appreciate the opportunity. We've done a number of these, and other we've got one going right now in Newcastle, and we're building one out actually right now in Franklin that we did for them a couple of years ago, and they just got a tenant. They just got their purchaser, and we're putting the floor in and everything for them. So hopefully we can do the same here when we get somebody for that.
I have a question. It's our understanding that the steel was part of the holdup. Do you know, at what point did you know the steel was going to be part of the building? And can you tell us when it was actually ordered?
Well, the steel was ordered, I think it was actually ordered in late 19. And it was delayed somewhat. The bigger delay was the precast. I don't know, precast times right now, it's gotten way worse, but even back then, they were a couple months late, as I recall. The precast and precast, just FYI, is horrible right now. I mean, if we placed the precast order today here at the beginning of June, we'd be getting it probably about next April. I mean, it's taken as long to get some of these components right now as it has to do whole buildings.
This all came to my attention because I requested a copy of the Build, Operate, Transfer Project Agreement, the original one that was signed in September of 2019, with a construction to begin in November 2019, but it had a completion date of August 2019. And that, of course, we all know is incorrect. So that's what got my attention, and I want to know, when is our completion date, going to be actually be completed on this building? So you're saying 3 months from now?
I think realistically, to finish up everything that needs to be done.
Okay, thank you.
And again, if somebody were to come along that was in a big hurry, and it would help the cause to, double up or whatever to accelerate things, we can do that. If you look at it right now, if somebody came in and said that they were interested and would like, by the time you work out all the legalities, and again, as I mentioned, the drawing, whether they would hire us or somebody else, whatever, new drawings are going to have to be done showing what's going inside the building, and then submitted to the state release, local permit, and all that. So if something were to happen to make that accelerated, as I said, we're committed to making the project work for you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
And this might not, circle back to the electricals, because I was just curious, as you're talking about how big of electrical, where is NicePack getting their electric from once this happens?
If I understand the territory right, it's split down the middle.
The creek is the line.
Okay, so we're not having to worry about the size of the line coming over for NicePack, because they're getting it from the other side.
I think so, yes.
So it's my understanding that if they move forward, when they move forward with the distribution facility in the northeast corner of the site, so that is east of the creek, that could potentially be served by SCI or EMC.
Okay.
Because that's their territory. West of the creek is technically IPL territory, which then means that they really get to choose, they being NicePack, not the town, not this body, if they want to be a split serve site, or if that is all on them to decide. Okay. Obviously, that's regulated, and we don't get to pick our utilities in the state of Indiana. So,
Okay.
Good question.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
High Street, State Road 42.
I sent another round of emails back to Richard Gilliott with NDOT, as well as his engineers and a few others in the NDOT team regarding the trees along State Road 42 High Street. per the commission's request. I put in my notes their response, but I will read it aloud. The trees needed to be removed in order to create space for the construction and grading work needed for this project, especially along the south side where the grass buffer is typically at a slope. The bases of the trees would have been severely damaged by the grading work to replace the curbs. This would have been a safety issue if the trees were left in place in such a damaged condition. It should be noted that all the trees in question were within NDOT's existing right-of-way, and any tree that existed on private property before the project began has been avoided. NDOT does not typically plant replacement trees in narrow right-of-way corridors such as this. The right-of-way needs to remain as free as possible from obstructions in order to protect the new construction, utilities, and sight lines at intersections and driveways. There's also a gas utility buried under the grassy buffer, which will need to be maintained and which will make tree plants in the buffer unadvisable. If the town still wishes to pursue any option for replacement trees or planters, it would need to be done after this project is completed, as to not interfere with the work. It would also need to be at the town's expense through an approved permit from NDOT. That said, for reasons stated above, there is no guarantee that the permit would be granted. The best option for planting trees is still on the property owner's property. These trees would not be impacted by future roadway or utility maintenance in or next to the grassy buffer. We did have some back and forth. It was, do you want trees or do you want planters? I said the request is for trees, but if you're saying no to trees, just, give us some guidance. And I think essentially they came back with, I think basically what Ryan said during our last meeting, which is we need to wait until the project is over, in part. And essentially that we can ask, and they won't guarantee that they will allow us permission to be in the grassy areas. So the fact that it's a gas main certainly doesn't help the cause on the south side. So obviously you don't want a gas leak in town due to roots overgrowing or anything like that. So happy to answer any other questions that you may have as it pertains to High Street, State Road 42.
Any questions from the commission? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, virtual meeting.
Thanks, Dustin. So last meeting, I had kind of gone over the legislative changes. One of those was the permission to have electronic meetings. Now I want to be clear that the past year, under the governor's executive orders, we've been able to have the virtual meetings where or all members could even be participating through Zoom or completely electronic. The new statute is far more restrictive than that. You have to have at least a quorum present, physically present. So at least 3 of the voting members have to be here. There is a laundry list of items that and requirements and restrictions that you have to comply with. One of them is obviously the written policy that outlines the commission's policy. But you guys asked me last time to start working on that. I have a rough draft that I will present at the next meeting for finalizing, but I needed your guys' guidance on some of the optional components of the policy. Like I said, one of the requirements is that you have to have at least a quorum physically present. So that means we have to have at least 3. So our policy can allow for any 2 members at a given meeting to participate virtually or electronically, or we can restrict it to 1, but that is up to the commission. The second question really is a notice required to participate electronically. Chelsea and I kind of discussed this, and we thought 7 days would be good policy, in that we can't show up here where 2 people are here physically, and then we find out 3 people decided to show up virtually, and now we can't have a meeting. So there needs to be some time to know whether we even need to have an electronic meeting, if all 5 members are going to be here. If we do have participants electronically, we also need to allow the public to also participate electronically. So to make sure that we have all that, there's at least a certain amount of time that we should know in advance. Now, certain things per statute are excused from that. If you have a death of a relative or a medical emergency, obviously that can be excused. And then the third question really is, do you want to allow on the front end any and all meetings to potentially be electronic or have electronic participants, or do you want to restrict some? It's really up to the wisdom of the commission on how you want to do that. Dr. Moore, you look like you have some opinions down there. You want to?
In that entire package, did it mention the school-appointed representatives?
No. But it's all on the requirements of the voting members. So you could participate virtually at any and all meetings without having any impact on them.
I appreciate that.
Good.
I'm probably the only guy in here who hopes to never be on Zoom, so I'll.
Okay.
Does it give any restrictions on like how many times a specific member could be on Zoom throughout the year?
Yes. So that, as a legal requirement, you can't participate in more than 50% of the meetings
Good.
electronically.
Good.
You cannot, let me see how this worded. So a member that attends consecutive meetings by electronic means must physically attend at least one before attending another electronically.
Okay.
So if you did a February-March meeting electronically, you could not do the April meeting electronically. So you couldn't do 3 in a row. That is my statute.
Adam, do you know if the bill that would grant a vote to the school-appointed representatives was even brought up again this time?
I think it's brought up every year, but
So far, but I don't know about this time.
it did not pass, I know that. Were you here at our last meeting? No. Oh. Well, we can send you the legislative summary that I passed out that has all the changes for redevelopment commissions. We can make sure we get that to you.
The only thing I will add is, Adam and I had discussed the 7 days. Although that is not a statutory requirement, Mooresville's best practice is that they still put it in the paper, and that's kind of it. Basically, we have to let them know 7 days in advance. So that is the reason why I requested 7 days. So.
I think the 7 days is reasonable. And part because, if we have to make sure that we have accommodations for if we have electronic, that we have to make it available to the public as well, we need to make that known to the public at the same time as we advertise the meeting. So I think 7 days is reasonable.
One down. How many commission members would you like to restrict this to? 2, 1? I'm of the opinion of 2. We'll just go
I'm
I
fine
would
with
be-
2.
Yeah, I would say 2 as well.
right along.
Assuming we want to allow this at any meeting that is necessary.
Yeah.
And,
Are there any specific meetings through the year that we would say it is necessary for everyone to be in the room?
I would almost say the annual report.
That's kind of what I was wondering.
I think the general policy should be that everybody kind of attends, whether, but if you have a death in the family or something else, I mean, you can always just be absent and not attend. But this provides a little bit of flexibility if you are stuck traveling somewhere or otherwise want to attend but couldn't get here physically.
I mean, like last year when when I joined the meeting from Florida, because it was a special meeting, it was a meeting that was called and it wasn't a regularly scheduled one.
Right. The last thing that I would mention is the policy would be the first come, first served. If there were 3 requests, they would be the first 2 that would provide the notice would be permitted. Now, that doesn't mean anybody couldn't work it out. Like if somebody first person requested doesn't actually need it or something, they can work that out with a 3rd person. But if for just a tiebreaker, we just have a first come, first serve in the
Makes
policy.
sense.
I will have that for the next meeting.
Sure. Any questions from the commission? Any questions from the public? New business 2022 pass-through, resolution 2021-2. That's a lot of 2s.
Do you want me to do this one? Okay, so each year, the commission has to perform an analysis and make a decision by June 15th on any pass-through. The statute requires that you project your expenses and your income. And if you are going to have twice as much revenue as expenses, so 200%, you don't have to pass anything through, but you have to get approval from the town council. At the Baker Tilly was here last meeting, they did the projections, showed you everything sort of in preparation for this meeting. So when we took their projections on costs and revenues, that resulted in a coverage of 126% or
126, yes.
126%. So you have projected coverage at this point. So there's no need to get town council approval for anything. Then the question is on pass-through, since there's not 200, well, I don't have anything in here about needing town council approval. We just have to make the determination and provide it to the auditor by June 15th.
Any questions from the commission over resolution 2021-2? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept or deny.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2021-2.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item, legal update.
Nothing particular. That we didn't have already discussed the virtual meetings. That will also be available for you at the next meeting. That's really it.
Managerial update.
I've done a lot of talking tonight, I feel like. I don't have too much more to add. I did, Barnes and Thornburg's put together that worksheet that Adam just went over for the pass-through analysis, which I plug in the numbers from Baker Tilly, just so that's a pretty straightforward process. continued working with the EDC on Lot 15, and still working with Banning Engineering on the water extensions for Mr. Pauly. As I mentioned, I did have a call with brokers regarding the shell building. Traction is good, and I think, to Mike's point earlier, I think when I first came before this body, back when I was at the EDC and asked that they consider putting up a shell building, it was a marketing tool and it's speed to market. And when, he just said precast, if you ordered it today, you're not going to get it until April. People can't go buy a greenfield site if they want to be operational in 6 months. I know it's been delayed, most certainly, but I think we're still ahead of the curve and happy to have inventory. So, happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Any questions for legal or Man's Consulting?
I have none.
None. The public representative is shaking his head no. Next item, review of claims.
I would make a motion that we accept the claims in the amount of $1,351,930.92.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. For the good of the order, Dr. Moore?
Yes, I would like to commend, you already see the commission here, and I hope that the people in the community recognize and appreciate what I'm about to say. But the commission is not responsible for the NDOT project on High Street, nor is the commission responsible for the trees that got removed and the replanting it will take to put that back in order to some people's satisfaction, although once trees are gone, they're gone. But I do think it's important that the people understand, and that the commission did a good job of trying to represent the people's views on those trees and questioning that, because the commissioners were getting questions. And so they did a really good job of pursuing that, trying to represent the people in their interests, and all the while certainly not having any authority to do anything about it, but certainly trying. And so the effort of the commissioners to pursue that, and Chelsea, your work on pursuing that, thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Commissioner Taylor? Commissioner Heidenreich? Commissioner Polk?
No comment.
Vice President Perry?
I have none.
I will actually piggyback off of Dr. Moore. Got a call from Banning Engineering saying, hey, I know you guys are taking some heat over the trees. He suggested something that maybe we as a town can look at afterwards, and that's kind of like an adopt a tree program. He said Zionsville or Carmel did it, where a business basically maintains something, kind of like what we do in the middle of town here, but logistically, I don't know if it would work, but it's something that maybe we could look at afterwards. So our lovely engineering firm coming for free with an idea, so thank you. Our next meeting date is July 1st. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ryan. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you so much. Brian, I have every